everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into something truly incredible. We're going to be tracing the footsteps of a climber named Amir as he scales Mount Everest. It's an absolutely gripping story of grit, extreme danger, and ultimately triumph. But, honestly, this isn't just a story about a massive mountain in the Himalayas. It's actually the ultimate metaphor for conquering life's impossible challenges. We all have monumental hurdles and massive goals in our own lives, right? Well, by looking at exactly how Amir conquered his peak, we can learn a ton about what it takes to conquer ours. Okay, I want you to picture this for a second. It's midnight. It is absolutely freezing. The wind is just howling across these jagged, frozen slopes in the pitch black. Every single step Amir takes feels impossibly heavy, literally like gravity itself is working against him. The air is so incredibly thin, his muscles are absolutely screaming, and the temperature is way, way below freezing. I mean, this isn't just a tough hike, it is an all-out battle for survival on the side of the highest mountain on Earth. Yet, amidst all this crushing suffering, he completely refuses to give up. Pushing through that level of physical and mental agony, that requires way more than just hitting the gym. It requires an ironclad why, a reason that anchors you when literally every fiber of your being is screaming at you to quit. Okay, let's dive right into this with Section 1, the dream and preparation, where it all begins. So to understand how someone even survives those brutal conditions, we have to rewind to the very beginning. For years, Amir held on to the single, lifelong dream to stand on the highest point on Earth. But as we all know, a dream alone doesn't just magically teleport you to the summit. Climbing a mountain actually starts long, long before you ever even touch the snow. Amir's preparation was frankly grueling. Physically, he pushed his body to the absolute limit, running crazy long distances, carrying heavy loads up hills just to build up that sheer raw endurance. Technical prep was huge too. He spent countless hours mastering climbing ropes and ice axes until using them was basically second nature. Experientially, he didn't just book a flight to Everest. He climbed smaller mountains first. He failed, he learned, he built his skills step by step. And we absolutely cannot overlook the emotional preparation. Before he even packed a single bag, he had to sit down and get his family on board, dispense their very real, completely valid fears about the extreme dangers he was about to face. Take his gear, for example, a crampon. If you aren't familiar, this is basically a heavy metal plate with spikes that fixes to your boot for walking on ice. It's not just a piece of metal, it is literally the grip keeping a climber alive on a sheer vertical wall of ice. It's a highly specialized tool for a highly specialized problem. But think about it metaphorically for a second. When we face our own massive goals in life, we all need our own versions of crampons, don't we? We need those specific, hard-earned skills, those safety nets that keep us from slipping backward when things get steep and treacherous. Amir completely mastered his tools before he ever needed them in a life-or-death situation. Moving right along to Section 2, the treacherous ascent. Now, arriving at base camp is a massive milestone for anyone, but for Amir, it was really just the starting line. What's really interesting about this timeline is how quickly things escalate from careful planning to minute-by-minute survival. Day 1, you arrive at base camp. Cool. But by week 2, you aren't just walking up a snowy hill, you're actively navigating these towering, totally unstable ice falls that could collapse at any moment. You're crossing terrifyingly deep crevasses on nothing more than wobbly aluminum ladders. And then by week 3, progress just intentionally stalls. You're forced to rest at altitude adjustment camps. Imagine enduring fierce, deafening snowstorms just trapped inside a tiny nylon tent, forcing your body to adapt to an environment that essentially lacks enough oxygen for human life. That acclimatization, it's not a suggestion, it's an absolute biological necessity. And right here is where we hit a really stark reality check. Because despite all that meticulous planning, despite having the best gear and weeks of flawless preparation, Everest simply does not care about human ambition. During this ascent, a lot of climbers actually turn back. Exhaustion and severe illness routinely crush the dreams of incredibly well-prepared, world-class athletes up there. And I think there's a huge life lesson embedded in that. Planning is essential, absolutely, but surviving the unpredictable, chaotic storms of life, that requires deep-seated resilience. When the plan falls apart and your energy is entirely zapped, it's that internal grit that keeps you putting one foot in front of the other. Which brings us to the climax. Section 3, the final summit push, going into the darkness. This is it. Amir has survived collapsing ice falls, altitude sickness, the freezing storms. But the absolute hardest, most profoundly dangerous part of the entire expedition is right now. And summit day doesn't start at some beautiful sunny dawn. No, he wakes up before midnight in freezing, pitch-black conditions. Step 1. He meticulously layers on all this bulky, specialized clothing, knowing that any exposed skin will literally freeze in minutes. Step 2, he equips the oxygen tank, because every single breath up there is a conscious, exhausting effort. Step 3, he steps out of his tent into this complete, swallowing darkness with only a tiny, swaying headlamp beam to guide him. Just imagine the intense sensory deprivation of that midnight push. Your whole world shrinks down to the small circle of light at your feet and the loud, claustrophobic sound of your own heavy breathing. It takes sheer, unadulterated willpower. 8,849 meters. Wow. Hours after stepping into that punishing darkness, the biting wind finally starts to calm down. The horizon begins to crack open, and the very first golden rays of sunlight break over the jagged Himalayan peaks. Taking that final, agonizingly heavy step onto a small plateau of snow, Amir suddenly realizes there is nowhere higher left to go. He did it. After years of dreaming and months of agonizing pain, he has finally reached the summit. I mean, can you even imagine the feeling? Standing at the literal top of the world, looking out across this breathtaking, endless sea of snow-covered mountains that just stretch all the way to the curvature of the earth. Tears fill his eyes, probably freezing almost instantly on his cheeks as he plants his country's flag right there in the snow. This moment of massive emotional release, it isn't just a physical victory over a mountain. It is a profound triumph of human courage, of strict discipline, and unbreakable perseverance. It's the ultimate proof that the impossible is, well, possible. But, and this is a big but, Section 4, the dangerous descent. So the crucial point here is that reaching the peak is only halfway. It is this massive, incredibly dangerous psychological trap that so many climbers fall into. They think the summit is the finish line. On the left side of the equation, you have the summit, right? Pure euphoria, victory, sunshine, tears of joy. But on the right side, the reality of the descent is entirely different. The journey down is just as extreme, and historically, it is far more dangerous. Because now, the adrenaline is completely gone. You are dangerously, dangerously drained. Gravity is just pulling at your tired knees, and one careless step can literally be fatal. Returning safely requires an unwavering, sustained focus. Amir couldn't just ride that euphoric high. He had to stay incredibly vigilant, bearing his exhaustion and following his guide carefully every single step of the treacherous way back down. And finally, Section 5, a legacy of inspiration. Because Amir's journey absolutely didn't end when he finally made it off that mountain and got back home. Actually, scratch that. Returning home was just the start of his most important chapter. When he got back, his community just exploded in celebration. But Amir didn't just brag about his strength or soak up the glory. Instead, he used his accomplishment to share these deeply humbling stories of teamwork, of enduring resilience, and a really profound respect for the uncompromising power of nature. He really distilled everything he learned into this one powerful quote. He said, "Success does not come from strength alone, but from careful preparation, patience, and courage." His climb became this massive beacon of inspiration for young dreamers everywhere. He proved that it honestly doesn't matter who you are or where you start. With fierce dedication, relentless hard work, and the courage to just keep moving forward, even the tallest, most terrifying mountains can be conquered. Which brings us right back to you. Amir's story is amazing, for sure, but it's so much more than just an adventure tale. It's a blueprint for your own ambition. So I'm going to leave you with this. What is your Everest? What is that massive, seemingly impossible goal looming in the distance, challenging your comfort zone? And more importantly, knowing now that true success takes so much more than just dreaming about it, how will you prepare for it? Think about that as you go about your day. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time as we keep breaking down fascinating stories and the lessons they hold.